the coziest corner of a cobblestone town called Sleepy Hollow, there was a little bakery that always smelled of cinnamon, warm bread, and just a hint of magic. The sign above the door, carved in gentle, swirling letters, read Mr. Willow's Sweet Dreams Bakery. The baker himself, Mr. Willow, was as kind and comforting as the smells that drifted from his shop. He was an old man with eyes that twinkled like sugar crystals and a mustache as white and fluffy as the flour he used. Every morning, long before the sun had even thought about stretching its golden arms over the horizon, Mr. Willow would be in his bakery. He would hum a soft, happy tune as he kneaded dough that felt as soft as a cloud and shaped loaves that looked like sleeping cats. But this was no ordinary bakery. The people of Sleepy Hollow knew that when you bought a treat from Mr. Willow, you were buying more than just something delicious. You were buying a dream. Each loaf, each muffin, and each cookie was baked with a special kind of magic, a magic designed to bring the most wonderful, peaceful, and happy dreams to whoever ate it before they drifted off to sleep. And so, the bakery was the heart of the town, a place of warmth and comfort, where the sweetest magic of all was lovingly baked into every single bite. The secret to Mr. Willow's magical baking was not in his ovens, but in his pantry. His ingredients were not like any you would find in a normal shop. For his flour, he didn't use wheat. Instead, on the clearest nights, he would take a large silken net and gently sweep it through the night sky, collecting the fallen dust from the stars. This starlight flour gave his bread a light, airy texture and filled the sleeper's dreams with a sense of wonder and adventure. For his sugar, he would wake before the dawn and visit the garden behind his bakery. There, he would carefully collect the first drops of morning dew from the petals of the roses and lilies. This dewdrop sugar was incredibly sweet and brought dreams of peace, beauty, and gentle happiness. His other ingredients were just as special. On his shelves were little glass jars filled with the most curious things. A jar of summer rain sent for dreams of playing outside. A jar of a kitten's purr, which was actually a soft, vibrating honey for dreams of cozy comfort. And his most precious ingredient of all, a small, corked bottle containing a single, captured sunbeam, to be used only for chasing away the deepest shadows. Mr. Willow treated each ingredient with the utmost respect, knowing that each held a tiny piece of the world's happiness, and it was his job to blend them together into something that could be shared by all. Every afternoon, a happy line would form outside the Sweet Dreams Bakery. The townspeople, both old and young, would come for their daily treat. Mr. Willow knew each of them by name and knew just what kind of dream they needed. For the little boy who was nervous about his first day of school, he would offer a brave lion croissant, which was shaped like a lion's mane and tasted of warm, sunny honey, sure to bring dreams of courage. For the old woman who missed her garden in the winter, he would have a flower field muffin, dotted with crystallized petals that brought dreams of endless summer blossoms. And for the children who just wanted a bit of fun, he had flying high cookies shaped like birds that tasted of light, airy meringue and brought dreams of soaring through the clouds. As night fell upon the town of Sleepy Hollow, a gentle, peaceful magic would settle over everything. The whole town, tucked safely in their beds, would be filled with the most wonderful, happy dreams, all thanks to the kind old baker and his magical treats. There were no bad dreams in Sleepy Hollow. There were only adventures and comforts woven from starlight and dew, and served with a kind and gentle smile. The bakery was not just a shop. It was a guardian of the town's peaceful slumber. But one afternoon, A little customer arrived who did not have a smile on her face. A little girl named Clara stood nervously at the back of the line, her hands twisting the hem of her simple dress. When it was her turn, she approached the counter. Slowly. Her large brown eyes were shadowed with sleeplessness, and her shoulders were slumped with a heavy weariness that was too big for someone so small. Mr. Willow leaned over the counter, his own smile softening with concern. "Hello there, little one," he said gently. "What can I bake for you today? A cloud puff pastry, perhaps?" Clara shook her head, her honey blonde braids swishing sadly. She looked down at her shoes for a moment before looking up at him, her eyes welling with tears. "Mr. Willow," she whispered, her voice so quiet he had to lean in to hear. "I keep having a bad dream. The same one every night. It's about a big, dark shadow in my room. It doesn't do anything, it just stands in the corner, and I'm so scared. I can't move." A single tear escaped and rolled down her cheek. "My mummy says your treats make bad dreams go away, but I'm worried my dream is too scary even for your magic." Mr. Willow listened to every word Clara said, his twinkling blue eyes full of sympathy. When she finished, he didn't offer her a simple muffin or a standard cookie. He nodded slowly and thoughtfully, a serious but kind expression on his face. "A persistent shadow is a tricky thing," he said, his voice soft and reassuring. "It cannot be chased away with a simple dream of flying. It needs something stronger. It needs courage." He wiped his floury hands on his apron and walked over to a special bookshelf behind the counter. He pulled down a very large and ancient-looking book. It was bound in soft, worn leather and held together with a brass clasp. This was his most secret and magical recipe book. He placed it gently on the counter and opened it. The pages did not have words, but beautiful, swirling illustrations of ingredients and feelings. He turned the pages carefully until he found the one he was looking for. "Ah, here it is," he murmured. "The recipe for courage cookies. A very old and very powerful magic." He turned the book so Clara could see. On the page was a beautiful drawing of a golden, star-shaped cookie, and around it were pictures of the ingredients they would need: a brave, noble lion, a tall, proud mountain peak, and the very first ray of the morning sun. "This is a dream that you don't just watch," Mr. Willow explained softly. "It's a dream that helps you become the hero of your own story." "Now," Mr. Willow said with a new sparkle in his eye, "for the first and most important ingredient. We need the roar of a lion, but not a scary, angry roar. We need the roar a lion uses to protect its family, a sound full of bravery and love." He went to a high shelf, one that was dusty and looked like it hadn't been touched in years. He stood on his tiptoes and carefully took down a small, round, and beautifully carved wooden box. He brought it back to the counter and placed it between them. "A traveling adventurer gave this to me long ago," he explained. "He said it was a gift from a great lion who had the kindest heart in all the savannah." Mr. Willow slowly and carefully unlatched the tiny clasp on the box. As he lifted the lid, a soft, warm, golden light spilled out, along with a sound. It was not a loud roar at all. It was a deep, gentle, rumbling purr, a sound so full of warmth and steady strength that it made the whole bakery feel safe. It was the sound of courage, not anger. With a special silver spoon, Mr. Willow carefully scooped up the golden, purring light as if it were a spoonful of honey, and gently stirred it into a bowl of fresh, creamy butter. Clara watched, mesmerized, as the gentle purr and the golden light mixed into the butter, making the whole bowl glow with a soft, brave light. Excellent, Mr. Willow hummed, pleased with the glowing mixture. Now for the second ingredient. We need a pinch of mountain peak to help you stand tall and strong. He walked over to a small, velvet-lined case on the wall and took out a single, grey stone. It was shaped exactly like a miniature, snow-capped mountain. This stone, he said, holding it out for Clara to see, comes from the very top of the highest mountain in the world. It holds all the mountain's strength and patience. Using a tiny, delicate grater, he carefully shaved a tiny pinch of sparkling, silvery dust from the tip of the stone into the bowl. The dust glittered like tiny diamonds as it fell. And now for the final touch, he said, his voice full of excitement. The first ray of sunrise, to chase away all the shadows. He went to a special, cool pantry and returned with a small, clear glass bottle. Inside was a single drop of the most brilliant, pure, golden light, captured that very morning. You have to be very quick to catch it, he explained with a smile. It only lasts for a moment. With extreme care, he uncorked the bottle and let the single drop of liquid sunlight fall into the dough. As it touched the mixture, the entire bowl flashed with a brilliant, warm light, and the whole room was filled with the scent of a fresh, new day, a scent full of hope and promise. Now that all the magical ingredients were combined, Mr. Willow added the starlight flour and the dewdrop sugar and mixed everything together into a soft, glowing dough. He rolled it out gently and, using a special cutter, he shaped the dough into a single, perfect, 5-pointed star. He placed it on a baking sheet and slid it into his old, brick oven. He didn't set a timer. He simply waited, humming softly, until the smell of warm courage and baked sunshine filled the air. When it was ready, he took it out. The cookie was baked to a perfect golden brown, and it didn't look overly magical at first glance. It looked like a simple, delicious, star-shaped cookie. But as it cooled, a gentle, warm, golden light began to glow from within it, pulsing with a slow, steady, and brave little heartbeat. Mr. Willow carefully wrapped it in a piece of soft, clean cloth and handed it to Clara. It felt warm and wonderfully steady in her small hands. "Here you are," he said, his eyes twinkling kindly behind his spectacles. "Eat this just before you climb into bed tonight. And when you see the shadow, just remember the feeling of this cookie. Remember the lions, purr the mountain's strength, and the sun's first light. The shadow won't stand a chance." That night, Clara got ready for bed, her heart a little less heavy than usual. After her mother tucked her in and gave her a goodnight kiss, Clara carefully unwrapped the cookie. It was still glowing with its soft, warm light, making her whole room feel a little safer. She took a small bite. It tasted wonderful, like warm honey, sunshine, and a feeling she couldn't quite describe, a feeling of deep, steady calm. She finished the cookie, lay her head on her soft pillow, and quickly drifted off to sleep. Soon, she found herself in her dream, the one that had scared her for so many nights. She was standing in her bedroom, but it was filled with a grey, colourless mist, and everything was silent and cold. And there, in the corner of the room, the shadow began to form. It started as a small, dark patch on the floor, and then it grew, stretching upwards, becoming a tall, dark, and shapeless figure with no face and no features. Before, this was the moment when fear would freeze her in place. She would want to run or scream, but she would be stuck, unable to move, her heart pounding in her chest. But tonight, something was different. She felt the warmth of the cookie still glowing gently in her tummy. She felt the memory of the lion's brave purr, and she felt her feet standing firm and steady on the floor, just like a mountain. The shadow in the corner seemed to sense the change in her. It swayed slightly, as if confused by her lack of fear. In her past dreams, her fear had seemed to make it stronger, bigger, but tonight, without her fear to feed it, it just stood there, looking a little less menacing and a little more lost. Clara remembered Mr. Willow's words. She was the hero of this story. She took a slow, deep breath, and it felt like she was breathing in the clean, fresh air of a new morning. The warmth in her tummy, the memory of the courage cookie, spread through her whole body. She didn't feel the need to run or hide. Instead, she took a small step forward towards the shadow. As she moved, the golden aura around her grew a little brighter, pushing back the grey mist in her room. She held out her hand, not in a fist of fight, but with her palm open, a gesture of peace. And then she did something she had never been able to do in the dream before she spoke. Her voice wasn't a scream. It was quiet, but it was clear and steady, with no tremble of fear in it at all. "You don't have to be scary," she said softly. The sound of her own brave, kind voice in the silent, misty room was the most magical thing of all. At the sound of Clara's gentle voice, the tall, dark shadow did something completely unexpected. It began to shrink. It drew in on itself, growing smaller and smaller, the darkness seeming to fade away like smoke. As it shrank, a new shape began to emerge from within it, a small and trembling form. The great, terrifying shadow was gone, and in its place, huddled in the corner, was a tiny, shadowy creature that looked like a scared little rabbit with long, droopy ears and two big, frightened eyes made of faint, shimmering starlight. It wasn't a monster at all. It was just a little shadow creature, and it was terrified. Clara realized the incredible truth. The shadow had never been trying to scare her. It was just a lonely, frightened creature of the night, and her own fear had made it seem big and monstrous. Without her fear, it was just small and shy. Or, this time, it hadn't been her nightmare. She had been its nightmare. Her heart filled with a wave of sympathy, completely replacing the last of her fear. She took another gentle step closer, her hand still held out, and her golden aura of courage cast a warm, comforting light on the little creature, making its starry eyes shine a little brighter. She understood now that this wasn't a battle to be won, but a friend to be made. "It's okay," Clara whispered, her voice as soft as a lullaby. "I'm not scared of you." The little shadow rabbit looked up at her, its starry eyes blinking. Slowly, hesitantly, it took a tiny hop forward, out of the corner and into the warm, golden light of Clara's courage. It was still trembling, but it seemed to understand that she meant it no harm. It nudged its little shadow nose into her outstretched hand, and it felt surprisingly soft, like cool, dry velvet. Clara smiled and gently stroked its long, droopy ears. As she did, the little creature seemed to relax, its trembling body growing still. It leaned into her touch, letting out a soft, silent purr that she could feel more than hear. The grey mist in her dream room began to thin, and the cold air grew warmer. The dream was changing. It was no longer a place of fear, but a place of quiet friendship. She and the little shadow rabbit sat there together for a long time on the floor of her room, two friends, one made of courage and one made of shadow, finding comfort in the quiet of the night. The nightmare was truly over, transformed by a single act of kindness and a cookie baked with love. As her dream began to fade, not into fear, but into the soft, gentle light of morning, Clara felt a deep and wonderful sense of peace. The dream didn't end with a jolt or a gasp of fear. but with a slow, happy sigh. She felt the little shadow rabbit give her hand one last, friendly nudge before it dissolved back into the gentle shadows of the waking world. When Clara finally opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was a real sunbeam, the first ray of sunrise streaming through her bedroom window. It was the very same light that Mr. Willow had put in her cookie, and it filled her room with a warm, golden glow, chasing away all the sleepy corners and dark shadows. She sat up in her bed and looked towards the corner where the shadow in her dream used to be. There was nothing there but her familiar, friendly room. She didn't feel any lingering fear at all. Instead, she felt a happy, warm feeling in her heart, as if she were remembering a pleasant visit with a new friend. She took a deep breath. The air didn't feel cold or heavy. It felt fresh and new. She was not tired. For the first time in a very long time, she had slept deeply and peacefully all night long, and she woke up feeling rested, happy, and brave. That afternoon, after school, Clara couldn't wait to visit the Sweet Dreams bakery. She practically skipped down the cobblestone street, her footsteps light and her heart full of joy. When she entered the shop, the warm smell of baking bread and cinnamon welcomed her like an old friend. Mr. Willow was at the counter, dusting a tray of muffins with powdered dewdrop sugar. He looked up as she came in, and his kind eyes immediately saw the difference in her. The tired, worried shadows were gone from her eyes, replaced by a bright, happy sparkle. She was no longer the sad, nervous little girl from the day before. She was beaming. "Mr. Willow," she said, her voice clear and happy. It worked. The cookie worked. She told him the whole story of her dream, how she hadn't been afraid, how she had spoken to the shadow, and how it had turned into a tiny, shy friend. She explained that she had even given her new shadow friend a name, Inky. Mr. Willow listened to her story with a warm, proud smile, his head nodding gently. He wasn't surprised at all. He knew that the magic of the courage cookie wasn't just about chasing away shadows, but about understanding them. He was so happy that Clara had found not only her courage, but also a new friend in the most unexpected of places. "Well," said Mr. Willow, his blue eyes twinkling more than ever, "it sounds like your friend Inky might get lonely by himself in the dream world. Perhaps he would like a cookie too." Clara's eyes widened. "Could we make one for him?" she asked, her voice full of excitement. "Of course," the baker replied, "but this one will need a different recipe. Not a courage cookie, but a friendship cookie." And so they did. They didn't use the lion's purr this time. Instead, they used a drop of honey from a beehive where all the bees worked together for teamwork. They used tiny, intertwined leaves from a vine for togetherness. And instead of a sunbeam, they used a single, captured moonbeam for quiet, nighttime friends. They made a small, round cookie, and Clara took it home with her. From that night on, she never had another bad dream. Sometimes, her friend Inky would visit, and they would share sweet, silent stories in her dreams. The town of Sleepy Hollow remained a place of peaceful slumber, its dreams protected by the kind old baker, and now by a brave little girl who had learned that the best way to defeat a monster is to discover that it isn't a monster at all. And so, the Sweet Dreams Bakery continued to fill the night with peace. And Clara, the brave little girl, never had to be afraid of the dark again. Now it is your turn to be brave and journey into your own wonderful dreams. Close your eyes, feel safe and warm, and sleep well. If you enjoyed our fable tonight, we hope you'll join us again. Please like and subscribe to Bedtimes Fable to help us share more gentle stories with the world. Sweet dreams.